Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Shay Allie here with you on Inspired Online, and I'm here this morning. It almost feels like morning with the lovely Jonathan Shaw. We go out to Portugal actually today, which is what you see in the background. Beautiful view. Now, I've known Jonathan for many years, and he's one of my kind of secret weapons for who I go to when I'm in pain or I have emotional pain. So he seems to be very, very good at getting rid of that. We met at a business seminar back in 2010. And even then, what he was talking about in terms of the link between emotions and pain was so fascinating to me. And I thought, okay, this sounds really interesting. And then I had a very real experience of what Jonathan did. So it's started with toothache that had kept me up for about 2 nights, and I said, hey, can you help me? And I was just blown away. It just went away after he did his thing. And then we tried something even bigger. Unfortunately, I got adult chicken pox when I was about 31 or so, and I said, can you work with this? And he said, well, we'll give it a go. And we got on Skype. And he said, look, you're going to feel really bad for about 48 hours and then it's going to go. And I'd been signed off from the doctors for about 2 weeks, and he did his thing and it went. And then ever since then, he's developed his methods and, works in very magical ways. I'm going to say he used to be a magician as well. So he's gone from being a magician doing children's parties and magic in that way to doing magic in terms of people's pain and health and emotional health. So I'm delighted to welcome Jonathan today for the first time here on Inspired Online, although he has been on our stage in London. Thank you for joining us today. It's so lovely to have you.
Hi Shay, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here. It's nice to see you again on Inspired.
Absolutely. And I'm going to start off with a question that I ask everybody on Inspired Online, which is, if you had to share your wisdom with the world in a nutshell, what would you say?
If there's one thing I could say to people, it's that my belief is all problems are caused by the way we're thinking and feeling about things. So it's all caused by our emotional state and our negative thought patterns, whether it's a current situation or a past situation or something coming up in the future. Every situation you have, whether it's health, whether it's success or happiness, it's all caused by what we're thinking and feeling. And if we can just change that, then the world will become a much happier place, a much better place, and there'll be a lot less wars and nonsense in the world like there is today at the moment, if we just took control of our own emotional well-being.
And in terms of, let's start with the beginning, I guess. How are these created in our system?
Well, basically, a lot of people, they label it like stress, but stress is not really the word for it, because there's lots of stress. What stress causes what problem, and that's always been the big misunderstanding. It's not technically stress. There are two main things that create problems in people. There are what we call a Udin moment, which is a shock. It's a moment in our life when we go and we sort of freeze. We don't necessarily do it on the outside, but on the inside, we have a moment of shock. And this can be a small thing or it can be a big thing. It can be something as simple as your mum and dad telling you off because you got a C instead of an A. It can be something as simple as your friend criticizing the dress you're wearing, or it can be something as severe as an accident, car accident, or a grief or abuse. It can be losing your job. Anything that to you is a shock. Now, a Udin moment, a shock, is categorized with 4 different things. So not every shock in your life is going to create a problem. It has to follow 4 categories. And that way, that potentially is a shock that could affect your health. So a Udin moment is labeled something unexpected, dramatic, isolating, with no coping strategy. That's why we call it Udin, because each letter of Udin spells out unexpected, dramatic, isolating, with no coping strategy. If you have a shock like that, then that could potentially go on to put you into your sympathetic nervous system and cause you health issues later down the line. So that's one way. The second way is from triggers. Now, triggers are actually born out of the Udin moment, because all the triggers that get created happen in that moment. But triggers can exist in your environment today. So one of the reasons why I was so stuck with my healing when I was on my healing journey to find something to help me, I was trying to clear all these memories all the time, these Udin moments. It's not just memories, it's specific Udin moments, but it wasn't totally helping. That's because there were triggers in my environment that were still triggering me. And a trigger can literally be anything. It can be something you see, something you hear, something you smell, something you taste, something you feel, like someone's touch. Or one of my clients, one of his triggers, because triggers can be very subtle, was feeling the mattress against his back when he opened his eyes in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
And as soon as he felt that, his depression kicked in.
Wow.
So that was one of his triggers for his depression. He just literally, I don't think he even opened his eyes. He would just wake up without opening his eyes. And as soon as he felt the mattress, that would trigger him to go, oh no, not another day. And his depression would kick in.
Wow.
Another one of my clients' subtle triggers was hearing her car door click shut. That was all. And that one trigger and one memory. So she'd been feeling alone for months, and she never really felt alone in her life for ever. And she was in her 30s now. I mean, and she's a very grounded, down to earth person. She's a physio, so she wasn't weird in any way, but she was feeling really alone. And one of the triggers or memories she had was walking into her house and just seeing the empty walls. So that was a memory. She went in, so she remembered doing it, but the trigger was seeing the empty walls. So we switched that off for her, and that was fine. And then all of a sudden, her brain went to this car door clicking shut. And as soon as we switched that off, that lonely feeling just completely lifted off of her.
Wow.
But it can be really subtle. Another one of my clients who was going through a relationship breakup, his trigger was sliding the bolt across his gate when he got home at night. And as soon as he did that, it would trigger the breakup of the relationship and the loss of his children.
Wow.
So once we switched that trigger off and one more is mobile and then cleared a few shocks, that all lifted off, his depression lifted, and he could work again, he could function again. So triggers can be very small, or they can be huge. They can be seeing someone on TV being abused, which might remind you of your own abuse. It could be seeing a car accident, which might remind you of your own car accident. It could be see two people have a screaming match, which is very dramatic, but then that can trigger you to feel anger or feel nervous inside you. And all these triggers can trigger anything, any response based on your perception. So your perception of the Udin moment determines how you react in that moment of the trigger. But triggers are very, very important, and they're very misunderstood as well, because triggers, they can be a little bit complex, because it's not, let's one of my clients, he was traveling a lot and he felt lonely when he was traveling. And one of his triggers was when he'd go into a hotel room, he said he could see the silence in the room.
Wow.
Now you can't see silence.
No,
so most people would think, well, he's hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you it's not something you can really. Most people would say, well, you're hearing silence, or you're not hearing noise. That's what they would say.
Yeah.
But seeing silence, you can't really see silence. But in his head, his perception was he could see the silence. So some triggers are not the normal perception that we'd all have. Sometimes we can actually feel a sound, or we can actually feel an image. We're not just seeing the image, we're feeling the image as well. And if that still exists, then that's when people get stuck. So all of these things, these triggers and these Udin moments, they go to making up why we have problems and why we become ill and disease. And that's kind of where it starts.
Okay. Well, all fascinating stuff. My mind went into when you even talked about the first example. So let's take the first example. The guy just feeling the mattress on his back, and that's triggering a moment. So how do you discover that it was the mattress that was, setting off this trigger?
Well, that's where my user experience come in. One of my favorite TV shows as a kid was Columbo, and I love detective movies, TV shows. Not necessarily the modern ones. I prefer the solo detectives: Columbo, Murder She Wrote, Miss Marple, things like that.
Watched all of that.
And to me, it's those are all my favorite shows. Not there's anything wrong with the new ones. I just like the old. I'm old fashioned. I like the older ones. But I've always liked that detective, that art, finding clues, asking the right questions. And it's all about the right question. It's about knowing what questions to ask someone to bring up the information, because our brains store the information. You know, people say they don't have a good memory. That's not really true. You're just not accessing your memory. Everyone's memory is fantastic. It's just they're not accessing the memory for some reason. So it's just about asking the right questions to probe the unconscious mind to bring up the answers. And as long as the person is willing to have their unconscious probe to bring up the answers, then it's an easy process. So with this guy, you know, he really wanted to get rid of depression. He did not want to be having this. So I just asked him a few simple questions, got to that moment, and we switched it off and switched a few memories off, and he was okay.
Okay. Well, you've
But
talked
good question,
about, you've been talking about, obviously, the effects that it has. So in terms of the mattress example, it was causing depression. So before we get into how do you switch it off, which I'm sure everybody wants to know as well, what kind of impact did it have on his life? Just, you know, the feeling that mattress every day.
Well, basically, I mean, as soon as he woke up, he was literally starting his day from a negative. I mean, he hadn't even got out, but he hadn't even opened his eyes. And already his unconscious mind is thinking negatively. And I can't remember the thought exactly, but it was quite a while ago, that client. But you know, if you're just laying in bed and you are being triggered to a negative thought or feeling just from laying in bed, then you're going to start your day off very badly. And when you start your day off bad, the rest of the day goes bad. Your negative thinking spirals. You see no hope, especially with depression. There's often no hope with depression. You're not happy about anything, even though you may have all the things in the world. That's why depression is very misunderstood, because some people with depression, they have everything, and some people can't understand why they're depressed. Well, it's not about what you have.
Williams, right?
One of the big misunderstandings. Say again.
I was going to say, like Robin Williams, you know, such a happy, you know, actor, you think, and God, so shocking.
And that was just a moment of trial, and that actually for me was a Udin moment. That whole Robin Williams thing, you know, that was tragic for me. I loved Robin Williams. He was just such an amazing comedian, actor, and you know, part of me inside wishes I could have got to him to help him, because I'm pretty sure I could have helped him resolve his issues. I'm not saying I could. Don't come to me and say, oh, don't moan at me for saying that. But I'm sure there's other therapists out there who probably feel the same way about people who've died to depression and things when they didn't need to do that, or committed suicide, because there's lots of things out there that can help. And that was a tragedy. Of course, that is a judgment as well. That's a tragedy, and I try not to make too many judgments in the world today. But he did bring a lot of laughter and happiness to a lot of people, and that is fantastic. But the misconception about a lot of illness and disease, although we're talking about emotions and thoughts, actually what the body's going through is a biological response. The emotions and thoughts come second. They're the secondary thing. They're the things that you find once you found the biological response. When I say a biological response, I do not mean it's in your DNA and you can't change it. What I mean is the organ in your body, whatever organ it is, whether it's a muscle or a liver or a lung or the heart or the kidneys, whatever organ, or the bladder, whatever organ is being affected, that is going through a biological response. It's altering its structure and function based on the Udin moment. Because when you have the Udin moment, you literally go through a process, and that forces you into your sympathetic nervous system. That's where it starts. And the organ starts to change its structure and function based on the biological response. So what a lot of people do is they try and find the emotions first. I don't do that, because if someone says to me, or if you say to someone, what you're angry about, you could be angry about a million things. But if I said to someone, where do you feel attacked or powerless? Now they go, oh God, I'm there. And then I go, right. So now when you feel attacked, what's your response? Oh my God, I'm so angry. Now you can find the response and switch it off. But if you just go after anger or fear or worry or shame, you could be looking in multiple places and they're not causing you problems. Whereas if you go after biological response, feeling attacked and powerless is actually the biological response for anxiety. If you go after that biological response, you can laser in on where the root cause is, find those Udin moments, find the triggers where someone feels attacked and powerless, and then switch it off. And then the problem starts to go away.
Yeah. You reminded me actually of well, because it's a personal example, I'll share mine because that's okay. It was someone that
Yeah.
owed me some money, and it owed me quite a few £1,000s, and I went down to see them to get the money. Now I'm not some big bodyguard or anything like that, and it was a man, and I felt extremely threatened. I was threatened, and I didn't get paid. So I think we met up a couple of days later, and that's exactly what you did. So explain to me what it is that you did. So let's start getting into, how do you make it change? How do you switch it off?
Okay, so that example, I remember that really specifically because I think it was actually Boxing Day, one Christmas, that we actually we actually met up in London, didn't we? And I remember meeting in the hotel. And again, what I say is everything is caused by our negative thoughts and feelings. So not just health, not just happiness, but situations like that. Most people will just blame the other person and go, "Oh my goodness, it's their fault," and blah blah blah, and they're not paying me the money, and I deserve the money. No, that's not really the way to run your life, because if you do that, you're going to get very stuck in life, and that's how a lot of people get stuck in life. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. What I'm saying is you had a response to it, and you wanted to get your money. You tried going after him to get, and he wasn't in. He was threatening and he wasn't interested. So you allowed me to do it my way. So all I did was I used my knowledge of law of attraction, and I found the shock that you had from him, and I found a couple of other responses as well. I used my system to switch it off with you in about 40 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember literally we switched it off. You calmed right down because you were in a dilemma about what to do. And I said, don't do anything till we switched it off, because you should never make a decision based on an emotional response. You should change the response first and then decide what to do, because often if you do that, you're going to get it wrong. I know through my own experience that does not work.
And I was
So
angry.
what we did is we switched it off, and I remember specifically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had every right to be angry. Don't get me wrong. You had every right to feel the way you did. It was your money. You you deserved it. You were, it was legally, everything was right.
Yeah.
But you weren't going to get the money that way. So I wanted to speed up the process. So all I did was understand law of attraction and use my technique to find the root of when law of attraction gets stuck, because law of attraction gets stuck when we have a negative thought, feeling, or belief. So I just found that shock, found the belief, switched it off. And I remember we said goodbye, we hugged. And literally half an hour on the way home, I got a message from you going, "Oh my God, you won't believe what's happened." And they put the money in your account immediately, hadn't they?
Yeah.
Within half an hour. And you didn't do anything else. You was going to call your lawyer, you was going to do this and do that. You did nothing else. In fact, I believe the person's daughter apologized to you over message and said, "I'm sorry, the money's in your account." And all we did was change your energy. That's all we did. And that's the most important thing. If you want to be successful, happy, but you must change your energy. The problem up until now is there's not been a really simple way of doing it. They're all very complicated ways of doing it. But all I did was I took the moment of shock you had, and I used my process, which is very simple, to switch it off in your brain. Now that's a little bit difficult to explain how that's possible, because when I talk about switching things off, people can't always comprehend that. There are two types of people. One type of person literally goes, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I need." And the other person goes, "I don't really believe that." So that's fine. That's okay, because I didn't believe it either when I came up with it. When I stumbled upon it, that was my response. I did not believe it, because everything I'd learned and everything I'd been taught told me that was not possible. And I've studied lots of different techniques. I'm qualified in lots of them, and I've studied lots of others. And they helped me to a certain degree. And they were okay, but they weren't always easy to do on yourself. They didn't get to the root of my problem, and they didn't solve all of my problems for me. So I was looking for something else. So all I really did in your brain was I found the responses, and the way I think of the brain is very, very simple. A lot of people make the brain very complicated, and it's not. It's very, very easy. Your brain is like a giant switchboard. That's it. And it's got lots of switches that are on that are negative: fear, anger, worry, guilt, shame, betrayal, hurt, injustice. Oh my goodness me. Thoughts: I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, I can't believe this happened, I'm such a good person, why did this? All these thoughts and emotions are on when you have a Udin moment, or when you have a trigger, they get flipped on. You also have other emotions: happiness, peace, love, joy, kindness, contentment, which are flipped off in your brain. So all my system does is literally flip the switch. It flips the negative off and the positive on. Once you do that, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, magic happens.
Yeah,
Your body starts to heal. Your mind starts to heal. You start attracting better things into your life. You start attracting better relationships, more money. And it's a much better way to resolve any situation in your life that is a problem for you. Because the way we often try and resolve situations is by changing the person or the thing around us. And that never, ever works. I've asked that question to so many of my clients. Has that ever worked when you try and change somebody? They've all said no. It doesn't work. The only person you can change is you. And the world is so amazing. Our minds are so amazing that if we change us, life literally changes around us, almost like magic. And there are the odd exception to the rule. So, you know, someone who's being abused, for instance, you do have to get out of the environment. You can't stay with that.
Yeah.
But once you get out of that and you heal that, then you can move on. But as a general rule, all we did was just split the switches off. So you calm down, you relax, switched off your anger, switched off all the belief systems, and then the energy changed. And then within half an hour, 40 minutes, the issue got resolved without you doing anything.
Frozen,
So that
and I'm
meant
not
less
sure
work
whether
for you.
it's me or whether it's Jonathan. So if it is me, hopefully Jonathan's still talking. If it's Jonathan, then I will talk. I'll be back.
Are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Hello.
Hello.
I can hear you. Oh,
all right.
Fantastic. Hello, I can hear you.
Hi. I didn't know whether it was me frozen or you, but
I don't know. I don't know if I was frozen. I was still talking, so, and then I stopped, and then you didn't say anything, and you said you're frozen. So I guess we were frozen at that point.
Okay. So hopefully it's caught what you were saying.
Okay.
How did you come up with your process? I know you said you were qualified in a lot of different things. What was the magic moment that you came up with yours, and why has it worked better for you and for so many others?
So basically, I tried a lot of things. I've been doing this since I was 21, since I had my nervous breakdown. And I've been on this journey to find the right ways to change the negative thoughts and feelings that we have, the past memories. That's what I learned at the time. And that is what I believe is the cause of things. And I've seen it. I've proved it to myself so many times. The difficulty was finding a technique that was easy to do, that didn't require too much knowledge and information so everyone could do it, and got to the root of the problem very quickly. And I learned a lot of things like EFT and matrix reimprinting and theta healing and multiple other techniques. And I looked into other techniques as well. And they all helped to a certain degree. Certain things got me to a certain place, other things healed some things partially. But I was still struggling. I still couldn't quite get to the root of my problem. And I remember I was literally, it must have been 7.5 years ago now, that I remember being in my lounge on my floor, crying floods of tears because nothing was working for me. I didn't have the relationship I wanted. I didn't have the work or the clients I wanted. I wasn't happy. I was still depressed. And nothing was working for me, even though I was doing this thing that I believe in, or at least I thought I was. But what I didn't realize was I was actually sabotaging myself. I was actually in a sabotage mode. And I didn't know that at that moment. But at that moment, I was so desperate that I decided to do a training with a mate of mine. And I'd resisted this training for about a year because I didn't think arrogantly he had anything to teach me. I was quite arrogant back then. I did this 3-day training. It was just me and him one-on-one. And it was designed to find your inner operating system that shows you how to move through life and solve problems. That's his belief that we have an inner operating system, and it flags up the things that are bothering you. And while the 3 days, it was very intense and it was quite traumatic, it didn't actually clear anything. It did highlight a problem for me, a belief that one day my first love would come back to me. And this was a devastating time in my life that happened in my mid-20s when that relationship ended. And I tried loads of things to heal it, loads of things. I had healed it to a certain degree, but it was obviously something still running. There were some beliefs. And this one belief came up that one day she'd come back to me. And after 3 days, I remember being in my lounge on the floor, and this belief came up again. And I thought, and I had this idea pop in my head, and I just ran this little process in my head on that belief. I closed my eyes, I ran the process, and within about 10 seconds, I stopped. I opened my eyes, and I looked for the belief, and I couldn't find it. It wasn't in my head anymore. I could not get that belief back. And that had been 10 seconds. I'm like, that's not possible. You can't do that. So I did it with a few of the other beliefs that I had about that relationship. And within 5 minutes, all those beliefs have gone, and that problem has never come back since.
Wow.
In fact, the only time I ever think about it is when I'm telling this story. So I don't even get triggered by her anymore. So that to me was an amazing moment, but I was very skeptical because, again, I was taught that wasn't possible. So I tested it more on myself. I tried it on my friends and my colleagues, and eventually on my clients. And I got fantastic results with just that first basic process, which is just literally 4 steps. I was just doing 4 things in my head quietly to myself. I got fantastic results on my own stuff, on my client stuff. And I used that solely for about 7-8 months, just that process. And then after that, I started realizing other things. As I was using that process, there was something about the process that flagged up other things to me. And I started learning what's really causing a lot of our problems. I learned what really sabotages us. I learned about the triggers that I didn't know about. Like I said, people can see silence when you can't really see silence. I learned that those types of things exist, and to look for those things now rather than just wait for it to maybe come up. I actually ask specific questions to get to those things. And once I learned, after that process, I learned what sabotage was, because I'd been taught through all my learnings that, we sabotage ourselves by not deserving. We sabotage ourselves by not feeling good enough. So we don't feel good enough. We don't deserve. We're not going to get it. But where does that come from? Where does not deserving and not feeling good enough come from? That could be a multitude of things. You'd be there for a lifetime trying to clear that. That's ridiculous. And certainly in my life, I didn't really have any big trauma in my life. I had a really healthy, generally upbringing. I had a lovely mum and dad. So I didn't have massive trauma. So where does that come from? And I could look back at my schooling and things like that, but no, it just wasn't hitting it for me. And when I realized what actually sabotages us, and there's only 2 responses that sabotage us, when I realized that, I could find those responses, switch them off with DTO, and then my life started working for me, because that was actually my main problem. It wasn't necessarily the traumas and shocks I had. For me, it was my sabotage. And so anytime something good would happen, I'd sabotage it. Anytime I felt happy, I'd sabotage it. Anytime I got healthy, I'd sabotage it. It was just never ending. I could never get out of that cycle until I had learned DTO or discovered DTO and had this sort of epiphany.
Right. Okay. And, for those at home, is there anything simple that they could do to, discover what it is that's triggering them?
Yeah, so triggers are a little bit more complicated because you need to ask a few more questions. Some triggers are really obvious. Some triggers are not so obvious with the examples. The best thing to do is find your Udin moments. So a simple way to do this, and I describe this briefly in the book, is to ask yourself 3 different questions. So think of the problem that you're experiencing. So it's a little tricky with health because you need to know the root cause of health to be able to find it. And I can tell people the root cause of health, different health problems, so they can find their own Udin moments. In fact, a lot of my clients do that now. My clients who have learned DTO, I've fixed their problem. They'll now message me if they get a new problem. They'll ask me what the Udin moment is. I'll tell them. They'll go away and find it and clear it themselves with DTO.
Right.
One of my clients did that recently with his own back pain. Another one of my clients did it with his own neck pain.
Wow.
And that was a 12-year-old, did it with his neck pain. He didn't know what the root cause was. I told him, and he switched the neck pain off himself so he could go to sleep. Another one of my clients did that with a daughter while boarding in the ocean, switched off a headache in literally 3 minutes by just knowing what the root cause was.
Yeah.
So once you know the root cause of illness and disease, you can then find the Udin moments. But if you're having a problem with somebody or something, there's a situation that's not working for you, let's say a relationship, then let's say you're feeling attacked in the relationship by your partner. The best thing to do is to ask yourself, what moments in time in the past have I had that shocked me where I felt attacked. It doesn't have to be with a relationship. It could be anything. Because once that attack conflict starts, you just keep generating that attack conflict in everybody. So you can ask, what moments in time or what memories do I have where I felt attacked? And you can write a list. You can ask, what moments of shock have I had where I felt attacked? And write a list. You can ask, what Udin moments have I had where I felt attacked? And if you're unconscious as watch this video, your unconscious will now know what we mean by a Udin moment. What moments have I had that were unexpected, dramatic, isolating, with no coping strategy, where I felt attacked? Those 3 questions would be enough to start probing your brain to bring up those memories. And you can start making a list of those Udin moments, those shocks. Once you've got a list of about 10, 15 memories, now you can start working towards changing them once you've learned a process for doing that. And you can learn DTO very, very easily. So I don't recommend people do this with severe depression or severe anxiety, because you do need help from a practitioner, because that can get complicated. But if you're just running some trauma, or you're running some situation in life you need help with. I mean, I gave this to a friend of mine asked me to speak to a friend of hers, and I spoke to her for about half an hour. I taught the process over the phone, and I've heard through our mutual friend that she's now thriving.
Oh, wow.
She took the process, changed all of her stuff, and I taught her in 30 minutes.
Wow.
Well, I taught in 10 minutes. The other 20 minutes was me talking to her about what the problems were. But she went away and applied the technique herself, and she's completely changed her world.
Wow.
So it's a very simple process that you can learn, but those 3 questions are probably the best place to start. To learn how to find your own triggers is a little bit more complex, and that's a little bit more tricky. We need a practitioner for that. But what I do is I often find the triggers of people, and then and they can go and clear them themselves. So you don't need me to clear the trigger. I can teach you how to clear the trigger. As long as you do the process as I say, then you go and clear it. I mean, that guy with the bolt, he cleared that. I didn't clear that for him.
Wow.
Another one of my clients recently, she had tremendous bladder pain for over 10 years. And she was really, really bad. She was like, she couldn't go to the shop. She couldn't go to the gym. She couldn't go anywhere. It was just, she always had to go to the toilet. She was always worried about it. It was just destroying her whole world. And she went everywhere. And she actually found me through her sister. I did a talk to a company that her sister worked for, and her sister passed my number on to her.
Wow.
And she's now fine. After 10 years, within 8 weeks, all of the pain has gone, and she's absolutely fine now. But what I did is I gave her the basic process on the first session, and she started using it to switch off her own triggers. So one of her triggers was being in the shower. One of her triggers was saying, "Oh, I'm feeling better today," and that would trigger to sabotage herself. And to begin with, I didn't really teach the process too specifically with her. So that first night she did it, I think it took she did it on her pain, which when you do it on a physical symptom, if it's a deep issue, that's more complicated. But she persisted with it, and within a couple of hours, she brought that pain down. After a while, she got quicker at it, and she was actually switching off her own triggers rather than trying to switch off a symptom.
Wow.
But she persevered, did it, and within 8 weeks, the combination of me doing it and her switching off her triggers, she's now completely pain-free, and her bladder functions like normal, and she's totally okay. So if you learn to do this process, once you grasp it and you get it, you can accomplish some amazing results with it. One of my clients switched off his own shin pain while he was running a marathon. So I was helping him with something else. I helped him with his shoulder pain. But on the call, he just said to me, "What's shin pain?" I went, "Oh, it's this." And while he was running the marathon the next week, he switched off his own shin pain while he was running it, so he could complete the marathon.
Good.
So now, not everything is that quick or simple. Don't misunderstand me. And people with really complicated issues sometimes take a while, because there's lots of triggers, there's lots of memories, and the length of time it takes you to heal depends on the amount of memories and the amount of triggers and the amount of sabotage that you have. But this is a very simple way to work through those things and start to clear them, and people get great results with it.
Yeah. So how do you learn it, or where can people come and learn it? So
So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So, I mean, the best way to learn it is to do it. So So basically, at the moment, there is a free introductory mini class on my website
Oh, lovely.
teaching the very first introductory part of the DTO system. So if people go to www.thedtosystem.com, I don't know why we say www anymore because we all know it's www, but we still do it. If you go to the DTOsystem.com, on the homepage there is a free mini class introduction to the DTO system.
Lovely.
It's 4 videos, just walking you through the basic process and setting you a 7-day challenge to start clearing your things and start clearing your memories and things that are bothering you and start you on that journey. And that is the first place to start. Obviously, the DTO system is a complete system for solving problems, but the actual basic 4 steps, anyone can learn and do it on themselves, no matter what age you are, from 5 to 105. It's super, super simple.
Beautiful. And are you still doing personal consultations as well?
Of course, yes. While I would love everyone to be able to actually heal themselves, and I really, really would. That's why I love DTO so much, because it is so easy for other people to do. Some people do require a therapist for guidance and help and to do really deep stuff. So if you are suffering really severe trauma, if you're suffering severe depression or anxiety, you really do need to work with somebody who can guide you through that, because that can be a little bit more complex. Or if you are suffering a health issue, you do need to know the root cause of it. So, you know, like I said, anxiety is actually feeling powerless or attacked. There are other biological responses that cause every other illness and disease. And you need someone to walk you through that, find those triggers, find those unique moments and switch those off. So the bladder pain, for instance, you know, I said to the lady, you know, where can't you mark your territory? And that's what bladder pain literally is. That's the biological conflict. She couldn't mark her territory. So we just found all the memories and all the triggers where she couldn't mark her territory, switched them off, and then the bladder pain goes away. Wow. So once you know the biological response, you just need to find the triggers and the responses. And sometimes you need professional help to do that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened with the chicken pox as well. There was I think it was a friendship situation, wasn't it, in my life?
It was a friendship situation. It was an intellectual conflict. Chicken pox is an intellectual conflict, challenging your intellect, or having your intellect challenged in some way. And that's often why kids get at school. So this myth about you catch viruses, it's not really true. I know everything's going on in the world, but if that really was true, I wouldn't actually be able to switch your chicken pox off. So if that was really true, if you could catch it, I would not be able to switch viruses off. And I have switched off multiple viruses, not just chicken pox. I switched off everything from flu to bronchitis to chicken pox to urine infections, bladder infections, the common cold. All of these things can be switched off once you understand what's really creating it. I know that is brand new information, but like you said, your chicken pox was gone in about 48 hours, wasn't it? So, and you was able to, because weren't you flying to DC, weren't you, at that point?
I was.
Off to DC.
Chicago, actually.
Yes.
I was gutted because like my body was covered in spots, and I'm like, they're never going to let me on a flight looking like this.
No.
No,
they wouldn't have done.
No. And you know,
but you went, no.
Sorry?
Yeah, but I think you went back to your doctor, and your doctor, you went back to your doctor 40 hours later after we cleared it, and he gave you permission to fly, didn't he? Yeah. He said you were all clear to fly after that 48 hours. Yeah. So you could get on the plane, and I think you was just a day late, weren't you, or something for your appointment? You was only a day late or something. So yeah. So that was good going. So in that particular case, and I had something very similar, you know, I had something very similar happen. So one of my clients, she called me on her honeymoon because her husband, who she just got married to, who I was at reception for, he'd gone down ill on the plane. He had a fever, he had back pain. Yeah, he'd gone down ill on the plane. He had fever, he had back pain where his kidneys were, so he was aching, sore all over. So obviously you don't want that on your honeymoon, do you? I mean, that's not good. So I mean, he couldn't move, bless him. He was just laid out. So she called me and asked if anything I could do. And at that point, I'd never worked with him before. But so I just went online, switched off the shock that created it. And within about 24 hours, he came out of it and he was fine again, and they enjoyed their honeymoon.
Nice.
So
exactly what you want.
Now she was exactly what you want. Exactly. Yeah. But I did it by understanding that everything is created by what we think and what we feel about things. Nothing more, nothing less. And if we change that, then we can get miraculous results, and we can start enjoying things that would otherwise be ruined, because their honeymoon would have technically been ruined. He would have been ill for days, possibly a whole week before that got resolved. So please, everything is about, it's not a blame thing. It's not, we're not blaming ourselves. We're not criticizing ourselves. We're just saying that we're thinking something negative or feeling something negative that's causing a glitch in whatever we're trying to solve.
Okay, so where can people get in touch with you? You did mention the DTO System website, but how can someone connect with you?
Yeah. So you can email me, jonathan@thedtosystem.com. If you're in the UK, you can call me. I believe my number's on the website. It's 0777 564 7962. Or you can just go to the DTOsystem.com, and you can fill in a message and message me from there if you like as well. So there's multiple ways to contact me. Email is probably the best one. Unless you're in the UK, you can give me a call. I do prefer speaking to people one-to-one because I'm dyslexic, so answering emails is sometimes tricky. So yeah, and very shortly I will be offering free consultations to people through the DTO System website for different things. So if you want to book an appointment for a free consult, you'll be able to do that too in the next week or so.
Oh, perfect. And you mentioned that there was a book as well. So where can we get the book?
Yes, there is a book. I do have a copy of the book here. This is actually my second hard copy of the book. It's not totally live yet. We're just waiting. It's a handbook. It just covers the basics in the book. It just covers the basic process and keeps the information as simple as possible, because I don't want to overcomplicate things for people. I just want to just do the process. The only time people get this process wrong is when they overcomplicate it. If you just follow it, the first time I ever gave this to a colleague to do, she completely overcomplicates it and went, well, it can't be that simple. No, it actually is. So the book is not quite ready yet, but you can again go to the DTOsystem.com and get on the early notification list. There's a sign up form on there where you can sign up and be notified as soon as the book becomes available. But your first step will be to sign up for the free training. It's completely free. I'm not going to email you constantly. You can just go in there, watch the videos, and if you have questions, you'll be able to contact me and ask me questions as well about it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating, as it always is. And
no, thank you. It's lovely to be back again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And well, I was going to say hopefully see you soon, but given you're in Portugal, I don't know when that will be. But keep our fingers crossed.
No. Yes, fingers crossed at some point. I'm supposed to be back in December at the moment, but well, I was supposed to come back in November, but we couldn't because of the lockdown again. So I'm hopefully back in December at some point. But yes, it'd be lovely to see you.
All right. Take care. Lots of love.
Thank you, Shay. Take care. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you.